Let's do it. The late night happy hour on a Wednesday. Early start. Tell all your friends. Of course, if you're on here, then well, I guess that'd be an important thing. If you're not, then you can't tell all your friends. Soren Petro's here. It's Cofield. The legendary Dave Cokin is on, but Dave actually trends younger than myself. For folks who, well, you're not going to see us behind the scenes. The games I was playing with trying to organize the screens. Man, Dave, did you realize I'm this old when you did the show with me like 10 years ago? What an old asshole I am.
I still don't know what you were trying to do just now. So I'm even older than you as far as this goes. I can't figure any of this stuff out.
He didn't want me on the bottom because he wanted to block, the bottom part of his fat head when we start bringing up like the comments.
Ah, okay.
And so he's hoping it'd make him look thinner, but instead, I'm going to be the guy who benefits from that.
I'm fine. the video's slimming. We'll get into the news of the day. And that's the NBA. And it's really all the other sports too. Dave jumped on behind the scenes and he's like, are we going to have sports tomorrow? But before we do any of that, I do have to get into the background of the three of us back from Sports Fan Radio Network.
Okay.
Brent, I don't know. Did you ever do a show with Dave? Because
I don't think so.
You and I never did. So. Petro and I never did show. I don't think we did one single show together. No, so it's funny now, some like 22 years later, this is the first time Soren and I have done shows together. So this is actually a new show. We're kind of learning each other, but you guys never did stuff together?
No,
we'd hand off. Like I know we did shows right in front and right behind each other.
I was with let's see, Mike Woodley, Jim Brinson, Howard Balzer, Pete Rose, and there probably were a couple other people, but I don't remember who they were. But no, we did not do a show together, which is probably the reason the network went back.
Did it have anything to do with Brady's comment? Was it because of Brady's comment? I never could. Was that what it was? Fire that one back up there, Steve.
Which one? Dave just realized that I was an a-hole 10 years ago. Now
I figured he's talking about me.
No.
We're talking about why we never did shows.
No.
Just realized, Dave's like, oh yeah, that guy was an asshole. That's why I never worked with him.
No, not the case.
Okay. Right,
insert
good to see you, brother.
Insert coins, Chris, with the always great to hear the old man's voice. I appreciate that, Chris. Thank you.
Who's he talking about?
Exactly.
I got a feeling
flies everywhere.
I think I might be the most logical candidate for that tag.
It's a free for all.
Rick saying DC and the Sunshine Man, the old show we did years ago, back around 2010, 2011, starting in I think 2008. Dave, did you see the picture? I sent out a preview tweet.
Who's the girl?
That was Kim Couture.
Oh, it was. Okay. Oh, all right. I like Kim. I remember having a discussion with her on the air. In fact, and I still to this day have not changed my mind on this. It's like she was going to become a fighter. And I said, I don't like watching women fight. And I still don't like it. I said, I'll back you 100% for your right to fight and get paid, but I'm not watching, especially and then I said something completely sexist, and I haven't changed my mind on this either.
I know what's coming.
If it's a really good looking girl, I don't want to see them fight.
Yeah.
I want to see them do something other than fight. Someone who looks, like Kate Smith, then I'll watch that, I guess.
Okay.
Soren, you ready for this one?
Nobody knows who Kate Smith is. If it's somebody who looks like Roseanne,
go ahead
and fight.
We know Kate Smith, the old racist who got canceled like 5 years ago for sins of the past, like 80 years ago. This is not good with the aging process. What the fuck has happened? Look at this, Dave. What has happened?
I still have that shirt.
Did Cofield? Did you eat the guy on the left? Because that, I don't know who that guy is.
Yeah.
Was that when you were in your soup only phase? Like you were just living off broth and oyster crackers? Is that what that was?
Wait a minute. When was that?
He had a stretch where he got way down and was talking. He was working out and he was jumping up on boxes, and it was like the start of his MMA when he was doing all his MMA work. And so he, like everybody else, oh God, these guys work out like beasts. Yeah, I'm going to go do it. And then, 3 months into it, he had 2 herniated discs and he had dislocated his ankle. And it's like, oh yeah, I'm not an athlete. Shit. And so he went back to being, fat and sedentary. And so now you see who you see before you.
Yep. Brady says some people age like fine wine. Cofield is aging like milk.
That's not nice. I wonder what Kim looks like now.
What's funny is you were right.
Did she get in the fight game? I'll bet not good.
Dude, she did, and she came in another time. I don't know if Dave was in. She came in after fighting, and she was completely ill-equipped. This is Randy Couture's ex-wife, so she wanted to get into it. And like one of her first real fights, she got annihilated.
Yeah, I remember
had
that.
Her jaw broken and had to have her jaw wired. It was like, we told you. Now I'm not going to sit there and gloat like, hey, you suck, but like
Where do I sign up again?
Yeah, this is real fighting. So,
and that's
I'll tell you about
that's actually not a great picture of her because she's real pretty in person. I mean, just absolute doll.
Yeah.
Am I the only one that like? There's like so many jokes that go through your head, but it's like a new day. It's a new age, and you're like,
Yeah. No, you're not. You're not, because we actually had a whole discussion last night about reprogramming ourselves.
Yep.
With our systemic sexism, like the old jokes we used to tell. I'm like, can't do it. Got to stop.
No.
Cut it out.
Well,
Believe me, I had a whole bit ready to go on poor Phillip Rivers versus the Mannings. Like the Mannings are going to keep pumping out like all these quarterback prospects, and Phillip Rivers is like, what the fuck? I have like 9 kids. I have 9 kids and 2 boys. What happened? But then you're like, girls are worthwhile. They have the same value as men. So you can't make that joke anymore.
You can make that joke. You'd be like, hey, they're not going to play football. They're not going to play quarterback. That joke's okay. That's understood. They're not going to play quarterback.
Well, and if they do play,
they're also not going to pee at urinals. That's okay.
But factually, and I don't think this is going to change. If they do go into sports, they're not going to make as much as male counterparts.
That's true.
They're just not.
At least the way it is right now.
And I am fairly pretty much on the left on most things, but I've always been a believer that, hey, you make what the market dictates you make. And I'm sorry, WNBA players, you don't get to make as much as the NBA because you don't do the revenue they do. That's the way it goes. Okay. No, you sell more tickets and get more ratings, and then you can get more money.
Cofield won't pee in urinals either.
No, I either take the giant handicap stall, like I said, and generally I like to sit down and just pee all over my balls. So it's a pleasant feeling.
Nice on a cold night.
One more thing to mention on that thin picture. I remember Petro saw me thin. And, fantasy football draft, we just start ragging on each other. And Petro just start annihilating everybody. And Petro just looks up and he's like, you are the only guy who gets thinner but uglier. I'm like, yep.
Was that what inspired me where we had our bet where you ended up losing $1,000 to me that you said I couldn't get down to a certain weight?
No, that was a different time. Yeah, okay. Dave, I bet Petro what'd you have to go from like 255 to under 200?
It was like it was like 250 or was it 240? And I had to get down. I was like 243 or 244. I had to lose 40 or 50 pounds because I think I had to get under 203 or under 202 or something like that.
I seem to recall that. I think I recall that.
Yeah. And so like there are all these $25 and $50 bets that maybe amounted to like $500, $600, $700 and that I had with people. And Cofield's like, shit, I'll go $1,000. No way this fat ass can do it. And like everybody else who lost me, and I did it, and everybody else who lost to me blames Cofield. They're like, he would have just gladly eaten his fat ass to death and lost the bet. But once you got it over $1,000, and Steve came in for 1,000 on his own, once it went over $1,000, and he's like, okay, this is worthwhile to go ahead and win.
That's the way it goes. This wasn't a paramutual wager.
Yeah.
And at least I don't think it was. And if Steve tilted the playing field in his favor, good move. That's smart.
I think it was at JB's. I think it was at JB's house when you came on board because I think I'd spun my wheels and not lost anything. And then when Cofield came in for the $1,000, it like doubled. I think it was like 900 and some odd bucks. And then Cofield like more than doubled it when he came in with the $1,000. And then I was like, all right, I'm going to get my fat ass in shape. And so I think I had what did I have? Like about 6 months or.
Yeah. No, you had plenty of time.
Yeah. I think I was doing like 5 or 6 pounds a month or something was all I had to do.
How did you celebrate when you achieved the goal?
No, I got real fat again.
There you go. All right. That's
started eating and drinking and, I think I went out. I think I got some fat ass cheeseburger and some fries, and like I hadn't drank a real soda, so I got a real non-Diet Coke soda, and and I did that for like the next 9 years. So
life is good. Yeah.
Next 9 years.
Yeah. Well, still celebrating.
Brady said, "How long did it take you to gain it back?"
It's 10 minutes. Shit, nothing. I remember because it not only, and winning the bet actually got me in deep shit at home because my wife was pregnant with my daughter. So that's when it was. Now I know when it was. It's 13 years ago, right? And she was pissed because she was getting bigger and I was getting smaller. So, the guys, the sympathy weight, I was like dropping weight like it was nobody's business. Like the whole time she was pregnant. So I was getting thinner and she was getting bigger and she was pissed. She was pissed.
Doug's coming in saying, if you like winning money, why do you always lose in baseball?
Who, me or Cofield?
I don't know. I don't know, Doug.
I don't lose. I've got like five trophies.
Maybe it is for me because I don't win. Can I play one more?
I didn't win today. I've had a good baseball season, but the last couple of days haven't been very good.
I love betting baseball, by the way, Dave. I think betting baseball, like two to like, I like to have an odd number of games, 3 or 5 games. So I can still go like, 2-1 or 3-2, but like betting the mild dogs, mild favorites, big dogs, never the heavy favorites. I
love not
baseball.
Splashing parlays all over the place because you're not going to win those. But no, baseball is a sport where you can pretty much stay in action if you just do some good math.
There's so many games. There's like so much. Like you just got to stay disciplined and not be that jackass trying to catch up on some shitty Padre Dodger game on. I'm gonna take a shitty run line and I'm gonna parlay it up with just calm down, jackass. There's 12 more games tomorrow. This is not like
that's that's
Sunday night game or shit, or Monday night. No games for 3 days. Like there's 10 more games, 15 more games tomorrow.
That's what keeps bookmakers driving nice cars.
I know.
I used to be one.
Speaking of that, that's what I wanted to get to. I know Dave booked. I know Soren booked. The first time I met Soren, I'm trying to think of how old you were at the time, but I think Soren's coming out to Vegas. He's like probably 24, 23, something like that, 25, whatever.
We were 25
and
maybe.
Soren gets his radio job in Vegas, and he's got a Corvette, like a pretty new Corvette. We're all like, what the fuck's going on here? Has the time run out that you can tell the story publicly, or you just want to be coy about it?
I don't know. I doubt, I just know somebody, they got into me for quite a bit, and it was like, hey, the guy had a lot of money, and he had this souped up Corvette, and it was a nice car. He knew I don't like Corvettes and wanted to get one, and so he made a run. Like you're talking about the game that finally put him over. So I had a guy. How about this, Dave? I had a guy call me.
Yeah, I was just talking about you having a Corvette and how you got it.
Well, yeah. So guy just got into me for quite a bit, and it ended up being, he didn't lose the whole car to me or anything, right? But he owed me a lot. He's like, "Listen, you like the car?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's a nice car." He's like, "All right, let's just cut the price down on the car." And so the car came real. He took one more shot at it. Like I usually didn't take the big bets, right? He took a double up catch up shot at it on a game that when he put the bet in, it already started. And he called me. I'm like, he goes, "Yeah, I want to get in on that." I'm like, "I'll bet you do. I'll bet you do. Who do you want?" And he wanted the favorite that was already down 10. And I was like, I go, "This is what you want." And he's like, "Yeah." I said, "Okay, bet." And he was running around, one of these guys that didn't even watch the games, didn't even know he's already down 10-0, and he was laying like 14. I think it was A&M, BYU, or something like that.
Nice.
And he was laying 14 and down 10-0.
That's when you know you're a bad gambler, when you pass post the wrong side. Jesus.
I'm like, okay, man. Now, I remember in college, we used to, when the parlays would come in, 3-teamers are up, we'd be so busy, we wouldn't even write them down. We'd just write down the amount and then put it down as a loss. Because like back then, we didn't have computers and all that kind of stuff. And so you're scribbling around at last minute, everybody's wanting to put everything in. And so somebody got, "Give me a 3-teamer. What's it?" Okay. And you just write, "How much?" 100. All right. 100 3-teamer, putting it on his number and everything. And then in the end, you just put it as a loss. Every now and then, some guy be like, "What are you talking about? I won." What? Who'd you have? Let me check it again. Who'd you have?
Never had to worry about
I
those
guess
guys.
you won. We could have been screwed a few times on those because we literally If we were jammed up, we would. If 3 teamers are up, we wouldn't even write down the teams, just the amount, and move on. Get to the next phone call.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, the guys you worried about were the single game bettors.
Yeah,
they were pretty good.
Yeah, they had some ability.
But fortunately, there were always a lot more of the guys who just would lose their ass on Sunday and then would inevitably try and get it all back on Monday. And it's like, I know which side's going to win this game. It ain't their side. I mean, talk about poison, guys. Ooh.
Is there anything better than, a Hawaii home game on Saturday to really top off the weekend in profits, top off the Saturday in profits?
Yeah, I was out of it by then.
Really?
Yeah, well, that wasn't until the 80s, and I was done booking somewhere in that time frame.
Hawaii, man, late night.
Oh, I do know that. Yeah,
guy getting crushed. Oh shit, here he comes. Give me Hawaii. Especially when they were scoring points, and they were throwing all those points around. It was like everybody was on Hawaii at the end. There was always an overlay with the number because Vegas knew it was coming in. Some drunken ass trying to catch up and throw a bunch of money on Hawaii. That was always good times.
I will tell you though, and I'm not a big conspiracy guy because I think most of it's ridiculous. But I have always and will always believe that in that time frame in the 80s and early 90s, the Hawaii football games were the dirtiest officiated games I've ever seen in college football. And there wasn't any question in my mind. I was like, you got to be kidding me. I mean, there was no question in my mind that there was some stuff going on there.
Yeah. I'll buy it.
How'd you guys get your money? Like, how did you collect? I mean, Soren, were you were a porker?
I was more just a front guy for somebody who had the juice. Yeah.
Dave, how'd you get your money? You're not a big guy, so what'd you do to collect the money if someone was acting like a jerk off?
Most people didn't because, I don't know how to phrase this. They knew who I knew.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That was it. I love that answer. That was it. He just shrugs his shoulders. Don't F with me.
Yeah, but that's the thing is like the modern, bookie he's got money all over town, right? I mean, that's part of it. That's like the cost of doing business is, I know guys who are still in the game and like, are you, there's some guys that I'm sure out there, hammer to the pinky finger or whatever to make a point. But for the most part, it's just like, okay, you're blocked out. You owe me this much. And, they're just screwed. Unless you're really going to go get it done.
I don't know that it's changed that much because there's still bettors who want to bet on credit. And you can't do that. Even, where it's legal, it doesn't matter. You can't bet on credit. You got to have the cash. And when it comes to Monday Night Football and things aren't going very well that weekend, they want that credit book to bet with. So the street corner bookmaker, if you want to call it that, still has they've still got customers.
Well, Steve, you remember when I got out there, like I did the stand in line at the casino, and I'm like, what is this shit? Like I was like, oh, this is great. I'm in Vegas. It's all legal. And then I'm like, standing in line. Screw this. I'm sitting in Vegas. Of course, waking myself up because the game started at what, 8, 9? When did they start? 10? 10's the NFL start? Yes. And I'm like having to drag my ass out of bed. Went to bed at 5 and I'm getting up at 9:40, calling in the bets, right away. Cause I'm like, I'm not getting up 2 hours early to go stand in line and, deal with some guy at the window. Screw this. I'll just call it in.
The best part back then, and I loved this, was, there were tons of illegal bookmakers who they wanted the lines from the shops here in Vegas for obvious reasons. And at that time, there were no cell phones or anything allowed in sports books. So what you'd see happening was anytime a line moved, there'd be banks of phones outside the sports book, and you'd see this mad rush of guys just flying out there trying to get to the phone to call the line changes into their books. They were line runners, and that's how guys made their living. They were literally line runners. That's a job that doesn't exist anymore.
Yep. It's all there, man. It's all digital.
All right, let's do it. Let's talk about the news of the day. I was telling you guys earlier, I did like 3 hours and 15 minutes following what was going on with the NBA. The Bucks started it. The rest of the NBA shut down. WNBA had different approaches. Eventually, it shut down. Players sat out in baseball. At least, 2 games got canceled in baseball. So, first of all, give me your take on we'll start with Dave. What do you think, Dave? What do you think about what happened today in the NBA?
See, what I'm trying to figure out is what it accomplishes. Because I think I wish it would accomplish something. And what I'm hearing is, well, we need to have discussion on this. And yeah, but at the same time, no, because I think it's become really clear in this country over the past 4 years that there is an enormous division between one side or the other, and neither side is going to budge regardless of how much discussion there is. So, I'd like to say, boy, that's a great statement you're making, but I don't think I don't think they're accomplishing anything at this point. If I did not watch the RNC, I don't watch the DNC either. I've basically not watched 1 minute of any convention since 1968, and I never will, because I don't care about hearing politicians talk from either side. But I can guarantee you that the tone at the RNC, with what's going on with postponements and boycotts and stuff like that, is extremely negative. And on the other side, it's all great support. But I don't know what this accomplishes, because the two sides are completely refusing to actually do anything constructive.
I will disagree that they're not accomplishing anything from this standpoint. Number one, the sides that are divided, I think you do have to remember, like there was there's 350, 360 million people in the country, and the vote last time was 60 million to 60, 62 to 58 or whatever it is. So there's 240 million people that, are either not eligible to vote or just said, and so half it, 120 million people are like, I'm not voting. So I think there's a group of people out there that can be reached on issues and subjects and then perhaps go and affect change at the polls. And I think one of the things I think is important is what the NBA does. Like, I think tonight they made themselves and their cause and their purpose the center of the conversation. They took time away. I did, because I've got a daughter who's an information junkie, watched some of the convention. And, that subject was being brought up, right? Depending upon where you were looking and what you were watching and which channel and what you were going to. But that was being brought up. And then I've got games on, and they're asking me, Dad, what's going on with that? What does that mean? And they remember the night the NBA shut down and Dad was like crapping in his pants, like, okay, I think I'm unemployed, right? Because all the other sports are going to follow right behind it. So when I said, hey, the NBA called it off, they're like, well, Dad, what's that mean? Because like they remember that night when they were shutting everything down, and it was a big night, because my wife's like, oh yeah, and I had already explained it. Well, I don't know what we're going to do at work and whatever. And my daughters are yelling at my wife, well, Dad might not have a job. You need to pay attention to this, right? So like they saw this, and they're like, Dad, is this it? I'm like, nah, I think we're going to be okay. I think they're going to play. And then it kept, barreling like they might not play. And then baseball, I think the one thing they got to remember is they're getting pub right now. They're getting recognition for their cause. Whether people like it or not, they're putting it on the center stage. But if they don't play, yeah, we'll see some video on the news of NBA player, A out at the front of a protest, but we're not going to have all kinds of sound bites, and Sports Center's not going to be talking about it, and the news not going to be talking about it. They lose their platform if they don't play. I would think, now I'll listen to somebody tell me why you're ridiculous, you can't play into this. Okay, I will listen to it. I'm a white guy theorizing on what, would be the mindset of other people, but I'm a white guy saying, I'm hearing your message. And everybody's hearing your message because you have a platform. And if you quit playing, you lose your platform.
Okay, but here's the question. Is anybody's mind going to change?
That's where I say I think
so. I don't think it is.
I think there are people, I'll tell you whose mind changes, 14-year-olds, 15-year-olds, 16-year-olds who are not yet locked in. Like, you get to be
cynical.
You get to be cynical. You get to be older. You dig in, whatever your political standpoint is, and the other side can't do anything to win you over. But, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, up to somewhere in the 20s, maybe into the low 30s. You either haven't chosen or you can be swayed, right? I mean, we know how it is with advertising. They talk about 25-54, and really they'll tell you it's 18-34 because they're not brand loyal yet, right? You get to an age, you're a GM-only guy. Right, so there's no point in advertising to the guy who's 44 because he's bought 5 GMs in a row and he ain't buying anything else. So the ads are a piece of shit to him. But you get somebody who's 16 and you bring out a hot new car, or you bring out a car that's super reliable and cheap, whatever it is they need, you can bring them in. And so to me, I think those are the people that you can make an impression upon. And the NBA is very popular with young people. And so star power, saying this is what I believe, I think will draw some people to, okay, I believe what they believe. That would be my
theory. I mean, look, I hope you're right, because I mean the complete standstill that we've got right now it's the most counterproductive thing I've ever seen. There's just nothing is changing, and that's bad. So I hope you're right.
I can't go ahead.
Well, I was going to say we started this conversation last night, and I was suggesting that the Bucs should walk. I also threw out there that for once it'd be nice if the whites on the team were the face of the thing, and I was suggesting that Kyle Korver and Dante DiVincenzo and who was the other guy? I keep blanking out. Pat Connaughton were like out front, like that. That's a nice statement as well. Whatever. The Bucs did it, so I think that was great. Now, all show long today, I kept asking until we got a key piece of information around 4:45 Pacific. I kept saying, hey, they've got to have a statement here. Like, what's the end game, right? That's what you guys started addressing. What's the end game? What's the, hey, we need this to happen until we come back. We will sit out weeks, if not months, or cancel the season. Now, this one's interesting because it's a twist. What I was saying is their goal needs to be these police officers need to be arrested. Until they're arrested in the Jacob Blake case, until they're arrested, we're not coming back. But now the report comes out, at least the police side of it, and Blake admitted to it, that he was going for a knife in the car. So that sort of changes the narrative.
It does change the narrative.
But I still think it's open for discussion. Again, escalation of force, appropriate response. If someone has a knife and their back's turned to you, do you have to fire 7 shots into them? What if he's got mental illness?
Right.
What happened earlier in the exchange?
I'm going to throw something else out.
But real quick, Dave. I think the cut and dry, hey, they shot an unarmed man, that disappears, and then you can't throw out, hey, they should be arrested just like I would be arrested if I shot someone on the back 7 times. Now it becomes more complicated.
Okay, see, my first take when I watched this was he has one exit available, his car. How do you not, this to me is, forget what happened after that.
Right.
How incompetent must you be if you're a police officer? Even I'm a layman. I'm not a cop. He ain't getting to that car. Okay, we're gonna have somebody by that car door, and he's not getting to the car. Yeah. How was that not the first? See, this is, to me, it goes beyond anything else. How many incompetent cops, especially in some of these smaller cities, because they ain't exactly the pick of the litter. I mean, this leads to problems. Is complete incompetency. It's not a matter of, well, you should have done what the cops said. Well, criminals don't do what the cops tell you to do. That's why they're criminals, you dumb fucks. I mean, this is it's the dumbest thing that I ever hear is, well, if he'd have complied, he's a criminal. That's why he's not, criminals don't comply. Okay. But how did the cops not block off his one route of, that's the first thing they should have done.
Well, David nailed it. Listen, even forget about you have training. These guys theoretically had training. I know they had training. Whether any of the training took, whether anybody made sure that they were qualified to do it. I do feel bad. There's so many layers to this, right? Like the idea that if you want police reform, you want all the cops gone. That's bullshit. And I think that speaks to your point, Dave, on where the politics are now, that if you're not 100% with me, I have free reign to misstate and misrepresent your side in any way I want. And, oh, by the way, you're un-American for not believing what I believe in, which is where the two parties are just a mess right now. But to your point, have you never wanted to kick somebody's ass? Get to where they're trying to get to first. It is so obvious. Forget about police training, right? If you're wanting to stop somebody, meet them there. Right? There were 3 cops?
Yeah.
One follows him and one goes the other way around the car.
Yeah.
What do we got? 3
that
Barney
part's not that
there?
complicated.
No, it's not. It's like seriously, it was like Keystone Cops. Oh, I guess we got to chase them around. It was like the old Benny Hill show. They're just gonna chase him around. A mob, we couldn't possibly. Nobody could get out in front of him, and so you end up with this situation.
I'll step up for the police officers. These situations can get squirrely. They tased him. Listen, I don't know what
your past dating history that you will stick up for the police officers.
In some ways, yeah, in some ways. I'm not going to get into. No, I'm not going to get into
them when they do things the right way.
Yeah,
That's part of
it's not always easy to control a scene. You also have again, can they do something other than shoot him in the back 7 times? Yes. Of course, but the scene is complicated. People are screaming and yelling. You don't know if other people are going to come after you.
No doubt. No
there
doubt.
are other factors.
I understand that, but
consider.
you know what? Then don't take.
It went wrong in a bad way.
Don't take that job.
Right, exactly. And Dave, like to the point, I will say it all the time about general managers. Like, listen, I can listen to a guy who's been GM for 20 years and not won anything, and he can give you a reason why every year they didn't win. It doesn't matter. That's bullshit. He's in the get it right business. He's in the win business. If he doesn't win, all the excuses may be valid. All the reasons they didn't win may be valid. Well, we didn't win because we took the wrong quarterback. Yeah, because you're supposed to take the right fucking guy, right? And so they get fired. In the police, yes, there are all kinds of elements that make it a very difficult job. There's no doubt. But you're in the get it right business there. Okay. And if you don't get it right, people die. And that's the problem. And so, listen, I'm with you. I do feel bad. I got a friend. Like, think about this. I got a friend who's, you know him, Steve. We got a friend who's a Baltimore cop, white guy, wife, African-American, son, half white, half African-American, standing on the front line. And he has people coming up calling him a racist, and he doesn't care about African-Americans. And he will literally pull his wallet out and go, this is my family. And he is a good cop that does good work. And he is caught in this, and he's frustrated. Right? He is frustrated by the things that have been done wrong by the police department because, and I do get that. And I feel for every one of those cops, but you also have to feel for every one of the victims. Oh, right. Yeah. And you have to admit that there is a systemic problem here. And I think Dave's point is right. Well, what is the end game? What do you want? And I think the problem is NBA players are not the ones who have to figure out what we want, right? That's not one of us, but us as a society and certainly the people in law enforcement have to figure out how to correct these problems.
Well, it begins with this, and I don't know how to accomplish this because it means changing mindsets. Anybody who doesn't think that profiling exists is an idiot. It does. It just does. And I hate to say it, but as long as the profiling is in the mindset, things are not going to change. Okay, they're just not going to change, and I don't know how you get around that.
Right. So I think one of the things that has to change is the police department within has to change. Like one of the things.
Well, okay, all right. So I'll interrupt you for a second here, and here's one area where they have to change. I have
the blue line has to change. We won't turn in a bad cop. Because that is the code of the road. You do not turn, no matter what they do. Okay. You never turn them in. The
problem starts well before that, and this is I'm going to use Louisville as an example because I have some close contacts in Louisville, and they're in law enforcement, okay, and they will tell you that the hiring are not what they used to be. It's a lot easier. This is scary. It's a lot easier to become a cop now than it was then. In that city and other major cities, they're not requiring college degrees. They're not requiring psychological training. And you got to fix that. It may mean you have to pay more because if you want to get good people, you're going to have to pay them more. But
Dave, how about this? Because I don't know, but I've heard this one, right? I'm not saying that this is a fact, but I've heard people say this. Like it was explained to me, like where I live, we have our city cop, and then we have a county sheriff department as well. And what I was told is there are so many jobs for police. There are so many layers of police, sheriffs, police, marshals, this, DEA, all this. There are so many jobs in law enforcement that are, number one, duplicates and where they're not necessary. All right, I think this is where people talk about defunding the police. The bottom end would be out if you didn't have and I don't know that this is true. This is what I've heard people theorize or people tell me. They didn't theorize. They tell me it's a fact. I don't know it's a fact. So I'm stating it as a theory that, if you have 100 cops and you only need 60, and you cut out the bottom 40, they say that the bottom 40 are where all the problems come from. And it would be stricter and harder to become a cop if you didn't have all these extra layers of police.
Here's the thing. I don't came up with the term defunding. think about this stuff first? You say funding. Obviously, people are going to look at that. Want to take all the apartments. That's really what it was. It never was. The idea was to strip away responsibilities that they don't need to have. Giving out parking tickets. Example.
Right.
Redistribute. They should have. We're going to redistribute funds. That would have been a good idea. Of course, they didn't do that.
Yeah, I mean, listen, global warming was a Titanic shit name, and it should have been global climate change.
Yeah.
Because you spent 20 years of people being like, well, 68 degrees here on July 4th. Don't tell me about global warming. Well, it's actually 68 because of global climate change.
See,
but
part of the problem is that the people who do this are under the impression that the general public is smart enough to determine what they actually mean, and they're not. It's just that simple. We're not as well educated as we used to be. I think we're somewhere in the 30s internationally as far as education goes. Nobody researches anything. You want to have laughs? Just go to Facebook and see all the bullshit that's out there with people who clearly haven't researched anything, and they just we'll go with this. And therefore, you have to be careful about what you label things, because a significant percentage of the populace is not going to know what you mean.
So I had so here's what I'm curious about. I'm with you, Dave. Like, what is the end game? So what do they do? Where does this go?
I don't know. That I don't know.
I think cooler heads will prevail, and I think somebody will impose upon them that you have your platform and you lose it if you walk out of this bubble. So keep playing ball and you can keep the message going.
I think that's the right approach.
I still
don't know what it accomplishes. I want so much for something, and I just don't. I think the two sides are so dug in and more determined by the day to only support their side, whether it's left or right, doesn't matter, that there's just no ability. Really, we've become what Congress and the Senate have become, which is completely dysfunctional bodies of government who absolutely do everything along party lines and accomplish almost nothing.
So to that point, I think what you do is you make it a major talking point, a major issue, of which we know there are people that are one issue voters. And I think this is an issue that people will become one issue voters on. And you make it a talking point. You force every candidate to declare where they are on this issue, and you have an opportunity to vote for the people that will go the way you want.
But I can give you the answer to that right now. Every Democrat, basically, there might be a few exceptions in swings, in states where they're afraid of losing the position. Every Democrat's going to be on this side, and every Republican's going to be on the other side.
But I come back to when only a third of the population votes, there's a lot of undecided people.
Yeah, but that third of the population is deciding
I recognize
the country is.
But I'm saying there's 2/3, or at least another third, if you say a third are not eligible to vote, children, whatnot. There's still a third that's out there that can vote, and they aren't. Is this the issue that makes them say, I'm getting off my ass and I'm going to go vote? And listen, I don't even want to say getting off my ass, because the whole voting thing is a big deal, because I'm talking with a friend of mine I work with, and we were joking. We weren't joking. We were talking about it, and he asked me, because here in Kansas City, Patrick Mahomes, when he came on board with the movement, he and Tyrann Mathieu, when they did the video on Black Lives Matter, and their target was to register people to vote. And I'll tell you something about that happened today here as far as information on that. And so my friend, he's African-American, he's like, okay, I want to see what they're doing. That's great that they're saying that, but what are they doing? And he said he brought up 2 districts, one of which is where Arrowhead Stadium is. And he's like, listen, I live in that district and I got to wait 2.5 hours to vote. I go, you're shitting me. Like, I see this on TV and it's like, okay, I know that happens elsewhere. I didn't think it happened in my town. I said, I've never waited more than 2 minutes to vote. But I live in Whiteyville, right? And he lives in a predominantly ethnic African-American part of town, and they clearly don't have the polling locations that they have. Now, the thing that happened here today, and this is what I'm curious about, is where does the NFL come in behind this? Because we know NBA owners, even the Magic's owner came out, and the Magic's owner is a contributor to the Trump campaign. And the Magic's owner said, we support our players 100%. And we have their back. And I thought that, now, is that just him protecting, hey, my moneymaker is the Magic, and I ain't ever going to have any talent on this team if I don't jump in on this? And so he doesn't really believe it. He's just jumping in, doing what's best for his real moneymaker, which isn't, having less taxes. It's the Orlando Magic. I don't know. Doesn't matter. He's going against where he has contributed politically. But I think the real question is NBA owners largely have always been with the players and been on their side and given them a voice. And the NFL owners were the ones that 4 years ago, by the way, 4 years ago to the day, Colin Kaepernick took his first knee. They were the ones that said, bullshit, isn't anybody kneeling? And now you got Roger Goodell. I'm told by people he has gone out and his video that he did initially and his statement he made a few days ago has not been run by the owners. He is doing what he thinks is the right thing for the National Football League and where he's at, which may end up costing him his job. Who knows? Or he's at least telling the owners, I've already put it out there. We're going there. And your asses better follow. But they're the ones that don't usually support them. And I think one of the reasons why the NBA should keep playing is because they go right up to the NFL and even beyond it this year, right? But they're going to walk right up to the NFL. The Thursday night opener is Patrick Mahomes against Deshaun Watson, the biggest star and one of the biggest young stars who are both African-American. And you want to talk about making a statement? The whole world can't wait for football. No preseason to whet their appetite. No real big college games to whet their appetites. Everybody's going to be watching that night. What is going to happen in Arrowhead Stadium, who is actually going to have, 16,000 fans there? What is going to happen on that field? I've been told at the NFLPA by Jonathan Jones of CBS Sports that he has talked to players, and there is a protest coming. They are going to have demonstrations. What it is, he did not know, but they're going to have it. I pressed Mark Donovan, was available, the Chiefs president today. I said, listen, I've been told that there are going to be demonstrations. Is Clark Hunt, is the Chiefs front office, is the coaching staff, are you going to take part in those demonstrations? Are you going to step back and say the stage is yours, do what you want? Or are you going to try to curtail these demonstrations? And we support the players, we love the players, discussions are ongoing, right? So we will see. But, I'm the NFL is going to do something. That's what's coming. And so if the point of the NBA is to raise awareness, you walk it right up and then hand it to the next big TV show.
And then when they do something, I can give you the precise response in the next few minutes on Twitter and Facebook. One side is going to applaud them. This is great. Awareness, working for change. And the other side is going to say, that's it. I'm never watching the NFL again. And they're lying about that because they will watch the NFL
exactly. Which is bullshit. But they're not going anywhere. And then I come back to the young people who aren't sure where they stand and are still formulating their ideas and what their principles and values are going to be for the rest of their life, are taking in a message that, okay, the guys I cheer for, I got 7 different Patrick Mahomes jerseys, and he's doing this, I'm on board with Team Mahomes. I do think that the star power of the leagues is impressionable on the young people.
What happens the day after that if in some city a black guy who might be resisting arrest gets shot? Nothing has changed. I don't know, and I don't know how to change. I'm frustrated because, I think I'm a reasonably intelligent guy, but I don't have an answer for this. And that's what continues to trouble me is nobody seems to have an answer for this.
Well, I think
we're saying
you want the long game.
Got to stop. But something has to. What I've got to see is some major city police chief come out and say, we are going to change our hiring practices. Everybody who works in this department is going to be reoriented.
Yeah, but
if they can't cut the mustard, they're going to be fired.
Well, what about, okay. But Dave, we know from from the situation down in Atlanta, the police chief resigned the next morning. I mean, that is the process.
What did that do? So she resigned, but that doesn't fix the problem that exists within the force.
The problem isn't fixed until people don't get shot, and you don't know if anyone's going to get shot until they don't get shot, right? So from that standpoint, listen, seeing the evidence that it's all fixed is an almost impossibility. But change in leadership and change in policies are what need to happen. I will tell you, I think what ASU said right there is I brought this up. I said, what if they walk right up and everybody practices and the Chiefs and Texans don't take the field on that Thursday night? The TV's ready to go. They practice. They put on the uniforms. They do everything, and they don't walk out on the field. And I know your point is well, what's going to be different tomorrow? Well, nothing will be different other than some of the more powerful and influential peoples. I mean, people aren't, who's the gal from the Kardashians as a billionaire, as a social media influencer? She gets people to buy shit. She's accomplished nothing, and she's a billionaire, right? So she's changing somebody's mind on some shit. Well, I can tell you that professional athletes can change minds. And, is it overnight? Is it everything? Can they fix it? Do they have the elected offices that have no. But does it begin the seeds of change? Yes. But to your point, what happens? You said, what happens if the next day another black person is shot, whether they're resisting arrest or not? They are shot by a police officer. What happens? I'm going to tell you what will happen eventually, because all we need to do is look back to, thank you, Kylie Jenner. Look back to the 60s. The concealed carry law in California is you can't conceal carry because Black Panthers in the 60s started concealing and carrying.
Yeah, I remember that.
And that scared the white people. And they went, oh, shit, wait, they got guns? And I think that's what will happen eventually. Eventually, peaceful protests that have become violent for lots of reasons. Some people take it too far. Now people are coming out, like as Steve mentioned, a guy with a gun comes out, and he's going to restore law and order. 17-year-old kid's going to come out and start try to restore law and order. And I think he thought everyone would run terrified of his gun.
Here's the
we
other
can get
thing.
to that in a minute. But my point is this. Eventually, what's going to happen is the people who are getting shot are going to arm the shit out of themselves.
Okay.
And they're going to start shooting back, and it's going to scare the shit out of the people with the guns.
I'm going to tell you when things will change, because I went through it. Nothing changed in the 60s. Nothing. It was still one side against the other. It was we didn't have social media then, so it didn't seem as bad as it does now, and maybe it's not. But nothing changed until Kent State, when white kids got shot.
But that's gone. Isn't that gone?
Let me finish. That's when the mindset changed. That's when conservative America said, what the fuck just happened? And that's when things changed. And that was the seminal moment that ended the Vietnam War, by the way. It was Kent State, and changed attitudes in this country.
And
now, what's the tragedy here is we were doing a great job of changing attitudes in this country. We had the top-rated show on TV was All in the Family, where Archie Bunker was a complete fucking asshole, okay? He really was. People look about it.
By the way, Cofield, you're muted.
Lovable Archie. Archie Bunker was an asshole, okay? They gave him some funny lines, an asshole. Right. And we can't get Archie Bunker on the air now. That show could not air now. We've actually gone backwards in relations over the last 50 years, which is scary.
Yeah. Well, listen, I hear what you're saying, and I think the change is not going to come overnight. It's not going to be a snap of the fingers. But I do think that the conversation and it being a topic that's not put on a shelf and in the back rooms. Because listen, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to say, well, I have lots of black friends. I don't have as many as I'd like, right? I do live in Whiteyville, but and I've gone to all my friends during this and said, listen, what am I missing? What do I need to do? And talk to them and had ideas. But I've heard people say, hey, this is what happens. I get pulled over. And I told the story on the air here. I remember years ago in Vegas at a crap table, me and a friend. He's black. He's on the other end of the crap table from me because that's the only places we could fit in. And I got two guys next to me calling him the N-word all the time. He can't hear him down there. I can. I complain to the floor, and we get thrown out. I get thrown. Not the guys using the N-word, me and my buddy, because I'm like, hey, get their asses out of here. They took me out, right? So I got thrown out, and that was my eye-opening moment. I know that part of it, but it is real, and I think it's making it real to a lot of white people. I think there's, Dave, your point about nothing's changed, I think, is unfair. I think the verbal bashing you hear at the top is different, but the protests look very different from the 60s to now. There is many more people that are not black, that are, forget about not of color. They are white, and they are part of that. And that is not what it looked like in the 60s. Would you agree? Well, you look at old photos of the different protests, you're like, wow, there's a white guy with them. I wonder who that guy was. Who the hell was he? Because he's the only one I see in that group. That has not been the case with the protest time.
Well, by the way, one of the victims, I was going to say, Dave, one of the victims of the shooting with this 17-year-old moron actually was a white kid who tried to. He's the one who went up to this kid after this kid allegedly, because I don't want to jump to conclusions, but shot someone in the face with his long gun.
Mm.
This guy goes running after him, whacks him in the face with a skateboard, knocks him on his ass, and tries to wrestle the gun away. Unfortunately, he's in a bad position. The kid on the bottom shot him in the chest and killed him. So, yeah, the face of the protest has changed. I just want to throw this in real quick and just get your answer, because I think there's a sense of hopelessness, and I don't want Dave to, I don't think that's what Dave is saying, but Eddie was saying, tell me what boycotts, protests, and riots accomplish in the history of the world, but specifically the United States. Boycotts, protests have accomplished nothing. Are you serious?
Yeah.
Yeah, the right. I know Nixon got reelected in '72, but the riots and protests had a huge impact. They just did. I was there. Okay.
Well, I mean, you can start with
Civil Rights Act. Women have
voting.
more rights based on what they did in the early '70s. Of course, things change with boycotts and protests.
Unions and wages for people. I mean, and the unions came with protests and they came with riots. I mean, they came with outright violence, and that's where I hate to say this, right? And nobody wants to hear it, right? And the Democrats on their side of it don't want to go there. And for full disclosure, I'm a registered independent, raised Republican. I'm a registered independent. Think of me whatever you want. I voted for Democratic and Republican presidents. All right, so take that to mean whatever you want, pussy, whatever. I don't care. But I hate to say this, but I'll come back to what I said. What will change it? Violence. And I'm hoping not. I'm hoping we've evolved to where, hey, we've seen the violence. Let's change so we have no more violence. But I think we're going to watch the protests. Like they've all been removed. What was largely peaceful protesting in the early summer had elements, had certain people that were doing bad things. And that gave the people that were against what they were fighting for, were against the protests, right? Well, they're looting and rioting. We haven't seen real looting and rioting, right? We're starting to see it now. Fire trucks on fire, cars on fire, like real looting and rioting. And I think with everything, things progress, right? Things go forward. They're not going to burn down their own neighborhoods. So you ask me, what will change it? We saw the St. Louis couple that came out because they were marching to the mayor who lived in that neighborhood. And they came out with their guns and said, we're going to defend our property. Think of them whatever you want. I don't care. But they took the march to the neighborhoods of the people that they feel can affect change. And the marches are going to and the protests are going to stop being where we hang out, here it was the plaza. It's a shopping and entertainment area. That's where it's going to go from there to the mayor's and the congressman's house, which is going to take it into the neighborhoods of a lot of people that are like, those people over there. And when the protest comes to the doorstep of the people, fear. Maybe it's not violence. Maybe what I should say is fear. The protest walking past you, the people who pulled out the guns were afraid. They were afraid theoretically for their safety or at least their property. And so they came out with guns. And that has become a huge part of the discussion here. What will change it is if it doesn't get better, the protests will grow. What I would ask you, Dave, as a guy who lived through this is, did it get better, or did the protesters, the rioters, did they get tired and worn down and quit? Or did real change come about?
No, I'm telling you, the change, it was completely divided. The generation gap was as real as it gets. But the
Civil Rights Act was not real change?
In most of the country, no.
Okay.
Dave, it was change.
It was change from a legal standpoint.
But
it didn't change attitudes. What changed the attitudes, and what changed the attitudes was Kent State. That one day where white kids,
which again was the fear of violence, but
there was no fear of violence as long as black kids were getting shot. The white community, which was the majority community, it's not happening in my backyard, and they probably got it coming to them. That was the attitude. Okay,
Omaha,
and then that happened.
Neosha right now. What's the difference between Omaha and Neosha, Wisconsin? Des Moines, Omaha, Neosha, Wisconsin.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know much about Kenosha, but I do know that Des Moines and Omaha are very urban. Right?
No. Des Moines? First
Des
of all,
Moines,
the state of Iowa, the state of Iowa is as white as it gets. It might be the whitest
Well,
state.
but the thing is that the black community in Iowa was basically in one place, Davenport area. So that even though it's not a big city in terms of numbers, it's still a very urban city. But the rest of the state isn't, and the rest of the state doesn't. They just don't feel like they're going to ever be affected by this. They can't stand these people.
I think, and I thought that was an interesting point there about what the Civil Rights Act brought about. Can we say that where the violence is now, the violence is less? The racial violence is less because the punishment is more severe. The problem now is that the violence is occurring with people in uniform who have a system that has protected them. That's where we are now. I'm not saying it never happens, but we do not have the, for lack of a better term, citizen on citizen violence that we had at that time. Is that fair? You lived through it. I'm asking you, Dave.
It's a tough call. It's a tough call. I mean, it was still very much cops versus kids. It just was. And at that time, the cops were definitely not liberal. I think, in fact, I think that's changed a lot in that cops now are a little more enlightened, at least for most of them. But boy, the ones that aren't, oh boy. To me, the first thing every police force should do, every police force in the country, small town, big city, it doesn't matter, is we are going to, if you want to work in this department, you are going to go through psychological training. Okay, we're going to start bringing in people and we're going to work on educating you. And the public should be allowed to attend those sessions as well. There has to be some work where the cops and the people are actually working with each other, and it's going to be required attendance by the cops at least. There's going to be an effort made there's going to be a change.
And I think that change has to, I think what the protests and what the conversations like this, what they do is hopefully they inspire the people within the departments. Like I do believe a big part of it is there is a code. Like, guy shoots somebody and puts a throw down, like nobody says shit. That stuff has to end. It has to be like the whole protect and serve is after cover your fellow officer's ass, right? And cover your fellow officer's ass has to become a part of protect and serve, not after, not before protect and serve. And I think that's a fundamental. I think it speaks to your psychological part, but I think it speaks to what has to happen in the department. I think the change will come about. I think, I'll give you a change that needs to happen. Body cam video, if it shuts off, you're suspended. Right? I mean, they have the ability to have a video camera running on every cop that's out there. And we've heard that certain situations where the body cam video was turned off. It can't be turned off. And if it's turned off, you're suspended for a month, no pay. Right? If it's turned off and there's an altercation of any kind, you're fired. The body cam video has to be on. There, what do we change? There's one. And then there is a video record. Maybe not the best because we know that shit's pointing around and you're chasing somebody and everything. But listen, I do also want to say I do want to stick up for the police in this standpoint. Somebody commits a crime, they drive 100 miles an hour. You're in a high-speed chase. Your adrenaline's going 1,000,000 miles an hour. They jump out of the car running. You got to run them down. You got to tackle them. They turn around and fight you, and you got to bring them to the ground. The concept, it's why my frustration has always been in sports where people are like, well, you can't expect people to shake hands after a game. I mean, they're so intense and fired up. I'm like, fuck you. We expect cops to do all this high-speed chase, run them down, tackle them, bring them to the ground, and then gently cuff them, right? Without slamming their head in the ground and doing all this. That is what we expect of them. But with our fucking athletes, we can't ask them to shake hands after a game or not be a complete douchebag with the fans. Like the whole mindset, I think and I bring that up to say that it's really important that the police do the job right. But we give excuses for nothingness. Like a fucking guy shaking someone's hand at the end of a game. Are you kidding me? like sportsmanship, like, oh man, they just played. I mean, how can you expect this guy? I've heard that, like when there's like different, like, oh, they should just do away with the handshake. You should eat shit, okay? Because you should be able to shake someone's hand after you lose a fucking game. And if we could do that, then maybe we could say, listen, we can clearly shake hands after a game. Now you got to control yourself. I know your adrenaline's going a million miles an hour. I know your life was on the line while you were chasing this guy. I know you wanted, did you roll over and have a gun? But like, we've dumbed it down so far to where we make an excuse for nothingness, to where now you ask a guy who has done like a lot of shit to try to get this guy under control, and then we ask him to turn it off immediately and now switch gears, which is what they got to do. That is a really difficult thing to do. And so I sympathize with that. I sympathize with that. But I will tell you, society is gauged, and this is true, is judged by how you handle your most vulnerable, how you handle your weakest, and how you handle your prisoners. That's the true judgment of a society. That's a true judgment of strength. Strong societies can handle people in a kind, caring, thoughtful way. Is there a time that somebody draws a gun? You got to, listen, you got to make it happen. But there are also times that you got to turn off the energy and try to subdue the situation. And that speaks to your point, Dave. I mean, that's the psychological part. That's the training part. And maybe instead of, maybe there's a better way to do this. And I think the idea of shunning even the concept of saying, like, I don't know how you could look at what's going on in the midst of the police force being under a complete microscope and a guy gets shot 7 times in the back, how you cannot be like, okay, you know what? We at least got to take a look at this. Let's see what we can do better. Like that to me would be a start. How can we not how can everybody not saying, let's at least check ourselves. Let's do a review.
And that goes back to the very first thing I said, which is, I'm sorry, but these 3 cops in Kenosha,
yeah,
they didn't know what the fuck they were doing. It's as simple as that. They can't be cops. You have to be better than that. You can, and again, for people who joined us late, the method in which they were trying to apprehend him was unbelievably stupid. Anybody should be able to figure out that the first thing you do, and this kind of is big picture within a small picture. How do you not know that you block off the route of exit for the suspect? Okay, this doesn't happen if they do that. This never happens if they do that. And if you can't do something that simple, then you can't be a cop. So I mean, that to me is what we need. Tougher. We need tougher requirements for those who are going to wear the badge.
Put a Buzz's thing there. Why is it never the criminal's fault?
There's a couple here. Okay. First of all, Michael, if the police never arrest anybody, it'll be great, right, guys? Have we said that?
No.
Have we said that? I've watched your comments. They're inane. Cut it out. And you have a clue on how the streets work? Seriously? What's your law enforcement background? Come on. You don't have the balls to put your name on your Twitter account.
And that definitely looks like a rough crowd you're rolling with.
We got a problem there. And same thing with Buzz KS. And I generally don't respond to bots without pictures. But of course, when have we said during this entire thing?
Well, but let me.
There's not criminals, and criminals can be at fault. Cut it out. That is childish stuff you're throwing at us. If you want to have a real conversation, have a real conversation.
That comment there, Buzz. Let me tell you, I'm gonna give you one in. This is what I say on my radio show. I may not do 500 level like sports talk radio, right? Like doctorate level sports talk radio, but I don't do fucking intro to sports talk. So what you need is 100 level conversation. Go the fuck down the hall because it's not happening here. All right? I don't need to tell you, I don't need to remind somebody all the time that shit smells. It's fucking understood at this level. Okay? Yes, criminals are at fault. Yes, they have done wrong. We're beyond that. So take that shit down the hall to where the intro course is. Because we're talking about how to fix things. So once you complete that, then come back down here.
It's one thing that people that have seen a lot of this is, well, this guy was, George Floyd was a bad guy, blah, 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 blah. And this guy in Kenosha was a bad guy. He's got a record. You don't get to be the judge and jury if you're the cop. It's that simple. Yeah. You're not the judge or the jury. And yeah, it's as simple as that. I'm not anti-cop at all. I believe me, I'm not. I want the police forces to be better than
I don't know why it's so hard for anybody to say I'm anti the bad cop. Listen, I'm anti the bad fucking drive-through window person. Okay? Most of them are pretty good. The one that's a pain in the ass and can't get the order right sucks. Let's replace them. I don't understand why we can't, why it's so, let's get better everywhere. Why does that not have to, why can't we say that when it comes to the police or the government or whatever? I don't get that.
Well, this
Thank you, David.
Me worked up. I gotta
do it. Light it up.
Light it up. I was fine. I had quit smoking, but this conversation's got me fired up.
But you just had it sitting right there.
I had gone almost an hour. I had it licked.
Yeah, thanks, TV.
I am just such an asshole. I just can't give these stupid things up.
By the way, I like that one. That was good till I said most fast food drive-through people are good. That's right. Now I pissed some people off.
So let's finish up the NBA part of this because obviously we're all fired up about what's going on.
You're not. You're just sitting there with your thumb in your ass.
Because the two of you are going back and forth. I don't need to interject and freaking interrupt the flow.
I know. I'm busting balls.
LeBron and the Lakers and the Clippers, whether they officially voted to be out, whatever they did, they voted that they're not down with coming back. So what do you guys think happens?
I think that's a mistake.
I think we're split. We're okay. So you think it's a mistake, right? So we all believe that they have a platform. Play and continue to send the message.
Absolutely.
Play.
I think there is an immense amount on the line with LeBron James right now in where he is basketball wise. And I think he knows that. And if he were to walk away in a year that he's one of the favorites to win a title, and he's for whatever it means, he's in this where does he rank with Michael Jordan debate, right? Winning a title in a bubble with no home court advantage, Avery Bradley walking away, no Rajon Rondo in the first round would be a tremendous accomplishment and would be a great resume builder for him. I do worry that he's like, I will sacrifice one of my last years to make the point. And I think if LeBron goes down that road, I think he's the biggest driving force around.
Let me ask you a question. Just an opinion from both of you. I know where I am on this. Do you think LeBron is, when he leaves the NBA, when he retires, is he going to go into politics? I believe the answer is yes. I think he will be running for office.
Geez, I don't know. That's the first time anyone's ever posed that question to me. I have no idea.
I think he's positioning himself to run for Congress or Senate. And I think he'll get tremendous support. I'm not saying whether you should support him or not, but I believe he's heading in that direction.
If he gets to Congress and he talks about movies, will they tell him to stick to politics?
Dave, I would bet anything against you that he's not going into politics.
I think the Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson route's more the.
I believe that LeBron thinks his impact can be through, using his money to foster social change, and also through Hollywood. That he can do a lot of good things with film and TV and documentaries and talk shows. So I think that's,
you can't change laws that way. Gotta get. If you're a lawmaker, it's a different story.
I'm not sure that you can change laws as a politician.
I think the billionaires probably write a lot of the laws.
Yeah,
they influence.
He's a billionaire.
I think there's different ways to do it. I think you have a lot more power being outside of politics.
It's just a thought.
I think he's on his way to being a billionaire. I don't think he's there yet, but I think he's on his way. But I think he's following the Michael Jordan path. And, you start repping dozens of players and, the direction that he's going. I don't know. I think it'll be interesting. I think it's going to be
But he's got nothing in common with Jordan other than the basketball talent.
I will agree with you that
Michael Jordan is one of the most anti-political people who's ever lived.
Right.
He's not comfortable with it. He can do what Jordan did. He can be in entertainment. He can also buy a team, which has amazing impact as a majority black owner of a team.
He can
shape league policy. He can shape league attitude. He has more power that way than being a senator. He's not going into politics.
To Dave's point, I do think he's much more likely to go in politics than Michael Jordan.
Yeah,
but I still think his calling is I listen. I don't know what an athlete who's going to go into politics looks like. I don't remember Steve Largent. What he said that I went, oh yeah, that guy's going to run for office. I think he's more likely than Michael Jordan to do it. And I could see it maybe later in life, but I think the next step is, business mogul. I hope he doesn't think it's going to be as an actor. Because let Shaq be your guide. You're never as funny or as good. Playing yourself in a movie does not mean you're ready to act. Business is where I think he's got a chance to really.
Even great actors were not good playing themselves. George Raft was a great actor, and he ended up playing himself in a lot of later roles, and it was like, this is stupid. So yeah, I would agree with that.
Shaq thinks he's a comic, right? Like I'm always mesmerized by the athlete. When you have a bunch of beat guys standing around there with the mic, they give you the courtesy laugh because they want you to keep talking and they want their story, right? Like you're not really that funny, okay? You trust me. And Shaq,
I think
they give Shaq
funny,
a show on
but
Comedy Central. He's not funny. No, he's a bright enough guy, but he's not a comic.
No, that's a tough job. I mean, I can be funny at times, but I'm no comedian.
And being an actor is a tough job. Jim Brown did what? Movies until he wasn't, athletic looking, right? Jim Brown never won shit. Like everybody would think, I'm going to go into acting.
Yeah, but he was great in The Dirty Dozen.
Yeah, he was.
He was fantastic in The
Dirty
Dozen.
He was the key. He was the key to the movie.
Yes. Brad, I wasn't exactly talking about Space Jam as being one of the more impactful moves into movies. It's kind of outside the description here. Sorry about that.
What's the what is the verdict? If we're doing an informal poll, weigh in on this, guys, in your chat, and we'll give our opinions. Do we think the NBA season is over? I'm going to say no. I think cooler heads will prevail. I hope I'm right.
I say no because from my view, again, I'm open to listening to somebody else's point. And with new information, I reserve the right to change my mind. You lose your platform if you quit playing. Like I just, to me, of what you want to do, you have kept the conversation alive. I get emails from people like, I don't really listen to you. They want to threaten, shove me into condemning the athletes by saying I don't listen anymore because I can't watch sports when they wear the Black Lives Matter political t-shirts. Like, well, I mean, okay, it's been made political like everything else, but just saying Steve's life matters was not a political statement. Steve's life matters. Black lives matter, right? You've made it a political statement. So, but that's keeping the conversation going. It's making people address a situation that they just want to go away and get back into their, onto a shelf in a dark room so they don't have to deal with it anymore. And the players, by wearing their shirts, have kept it front and center. And I think that is what needs to happen. What will ultimately change it? I don't know, but I know what won't do it. Shutting everything down and acting like nothing has happened. That definitely won't do it.
Will LeBron be the key guy in this, or is it going to be Giannis? Because he's the new face of the league. He really is.
He might be the new best player in the league. LeBron is still the league.
I don't know, especially given the proximity.
That helps.
Milwaukee Buck, Kenosha, Wisconsin. I think he's going to be the key guy in this. And I mean, it sounds like, and I don't know him, okay? It sounds like he is on the side of we're not playing.
I think he's on that side right now. I think a lot of conversations will happen. And I do think even if they never had any intention, maybe they had the intention and maybe they'll change their mind, or maybe they never did. The threat of ending the season, I think, is a good thing to threaten. Now, you can't do it every other week, every other game. This is it. You got to figure out how to maximize this threat the best way you can and move forward to get what it is you're trying to achieve. And I don't think it's, going off and not having, having one microphone that happens to be covering the march that you're taking part in, as opposed to having 20 of all national networks jamming a microphone in your face before and after games. Like, if you want the maximum exposure to what it is you're trying to change, you keep playing basketball. And I think cooler heads will figure that out and they will play on.
If both LA teams are the ones who say, that's it, we're done, does that domino throughout the league, or are there other teams that are going to say, well, we're going to play? I mean, I don't know. I don't know.
I think the fact that the other NBA teams want to play, I think they're going to figure out that they need to be unified in whatever they do. So either the LA teams are going to convince the other, what are we now? What are we at now? Shit, we're at 12 or something, because we're kind of into the second round with some, and whatever we're at. I think whatever they do, it has to be unified. Like, the LA teams can't drop out and they play on. That'll be a train wreck, and the Players Association will never be taken seriously again. So whatever they do, they have to figure it out and be unified. And right now, the LA teams are outgunned, and I think the LA teams will realize their strength in numbers, and alienating yourselves is not going to be a good move.
What if
Steve?
I was going to say what, because I was asking on the air today, and I asked earlier, like, what's the end game? These cops are not going to get arrested in the Jacob Blake shooting. What if the next end game was, you know what? These 10 owners, they're not going to call them motherfuckers, but I'll say it. You motherfuckers need to get out in front of this, and you need to speak on our behalf and have a laundry list of everything that's wrong, and start throwing out around your muscle. Make a statement on our behalf, not Adam Silver. Like, hey, Reinsdorf, and he's not even in the goddamn playoffs, but Reinsdorf, I think Jeannie Buss would be on board. Cuban would be on board. The Bucks owners would be on board. But you mentioned earlier, Orlando, the owner there is a Trump contributor. What if they demanded, hey, we don't want to hear about your support. We want to see it in front of cameras. You put yourself at risk for us. I mean, don't even get me started with the NFL.
Oh, well,
right?
no, the NFL.
But until these 10 or 12 owners, and especially some of you that contribute to the side that we believe, and I'm talking about as an NBA player, we believe are dividing things. You get out in front, you get in front of cameras, and you back us, or we're not coming back.
I think it's a great point. That's one of the reasons why I asked today when we had the president of the Chiefs doing a Zoom press conference. I said, listen, the coaching staff, is Clark Hunt going to be a part of this movement? Right now, organizations are making statements. That's not the same thing as a billionaire owner coming forward and saying, I employ a lot of people, I pay a lot of taxes, and I say this. I'm with you 100%. I think that needs to happen. I don't know that it will. Mark Cuban has already come out and said something. I think he is a guy that will probably come forward. I think there are NBA owners that will. That's why I think the issue, very quickly, and I think the NBA needs to recognize they got to run this up and hand the baton to the NFL. Because I think that's the
then what does the NFL do? Because does Robert Kraft, you think Robert Kraft's going to come out and make a that'll be interesting.
I don't.
We know where Kraft is.
I don't, and I think to Steve's point, if the NBA owners did and the NFL owners don't, right? The NFL owners succumbed. Like, maybe the next step isn't the owners. Like, maybe it's through the owners. The next step is the fans, because the NFL owners cowered, for lack of a better word, when Colin Kaepernick and a handful of other players kneeled. They cowered to the people who said, "You kneel for the anthem, I'm not coming." Well, what if it's you don't kneel for the anthem?
And they also. What
if the other side says, "I'm not coming"?
It's not cowering when they actually agreed with that stance. I'm telling you that when the president called them sons of bitches, I will guarantee you most of the NFL owners nodded in agreement.
I will. Yes, but I think it's when you sacrifice Colin Kaepernick's career, a guy who had done nothing. Like, everybody always wants to talk about, like, Pete Rose, right? Like, you work with Pete. When you bring up Pete not being in the Hall of Fame, it's like, there are guys that have done drugs for all these years and Pete's not in. Colin Kaepernick didn't do shit, right?
No, but he also did some things, and I'm not. Look, I never thought what Colin Kaepernick did was wrong.
I'm talking about legally.
No, legally, no. But he also, there are some things that Colin Kaepernick did that did infuriate a lot of people, and I don't disagree with them on the point, for instance, of basically the support for Fidel Castro. I mean, he wasn't perfect either, right?
No,
Fidel
agreed.
Castro is one of the biggest assholes in the history of the planet. Okay. You got to pick your spots.
Yeah, no doubt. But my point is this. They went with what they thought the pervasive mood was, that we're going to lose money if we don't shun this. We got to do everything we can to try to shut this down. If it flips around this time and they're going to lose money if they don't back it, if they don't support it, then I think they will be on board. I mean, it's about, for them, the NFL, it's clearly just about the money.
Yeah.
So the players have to make it clear you're not going to make your money unless you're on board in some way, shape, or form, or in this specific way, shape, and form. I will tell you, one of the things the Chiefs did today was Mark Donovan announced that they are going to turn Arrowhead. It hadn't been announced, but he got pressured. What are you doing in these districts? And he said, we are working to turn Arrowhead into a polling location. And so where they have hour plus, 2 hours, I don't even know how long because I don't vote there, right?
Yep.
But they're talking about trying to help out the cause and getting people, making it easier for people to vote. By the way, that's real change. That's
there were
the NFL
30
doing something real. The Lions are doing that with their stadium. Yep. That's real change. Like you could, and what the people. One thing, real quick, Steve. 30 seconds, I'll be done. The one thing that I think the side that's pushing for change has to do, and I think every side that's trying to do something. If somebody comes 20% towards you, don't spend your whole fucking time bitching about the 80% they haven't finished. At least celebrate the 20% they've come along. And that is a big move for NFL owners to turn over their stadium and their resources to try to get it done. It's at least a step in the right direction, and you can't crap on steps because they're not big enough. You encourage that, and then you show them where the next step is.
Sorry, I was trying to cut you off. All I wanted to say is we have a stadium that is not going to be used. And when the chirping has begun here about 2 weeks ago, and this is not political. This is not political. Make it easier for people to vote. That's not taking a stance on one side or the other. We've paid $750 million for this goddamn stadium, and we're going to spend another $500 million on the roads. Use it in November. Make it easier for people, and you open it for early voting.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. People actually get it. It serves two things. Not that important on the first one. People actually get to see what they've spent $750 million on, and you make it easier so that there's no part of Las Vegas where anyone is waiting in line to vote. Use the stadium. That's a nice statement. And I think Mark Davis would be behind it, I think.
I would hope so.
And that's one of the things when you talk about, like, the owners, a big part of these professional sports teams, I'm like laying down the law, saying that, like, and I also people said, well, threaten. I saw some of the comments were threaten. We're not going to play unless you give us this. That's a tough pill to sell, or at least a tough stick to wave over somebody's head when you're already making everybody pay hundreds of millions of dollars to furnish your work site, right? So all these publicly financed stadiums, like, you've already waved that stick. Like, you got to build my office for me. Now to turn around and say, and now you got to do this. Like, build your office for yourself and say, well, shit, I'll build my own thing at another town. Now you'd have a stick to wave around. But you don't have a stick to wave around unless you got a town that's willing to build you something better. The fans will be like, you ain't going nowhere.
Of course, CJ Cards fans brings in the reality of if you did vote at Allegiant Stadium, you'd have to walk fucking 20 miles to get there, so that would be a problem. By the way, I was just putting together a list of NBA owners who could get up there and say, stop the division, it's bullshit, stop ripping our players, stop threatening our players, stop telling them to shut up and dribble. Between Tillman Fertitta and James Dolan and Jerry Reinsdorf and Glenn Taylor and Old Lady Benson and Stan Kroenke and Herb Simon, that'd be a nice statement. It doesn't have to be the young guys or the young women, younger, like Cuban and Buss. Get some of the old folks out there and back your players. Not that hard, right? Are they there to just make money for you, or do you actually care about their lives? And
I'd be interested. I'd like to see that. I doubt it happens.
Let's do keep in mind one of the Milwaukee Bucks was he was illegally parked at night and he was taken out of his car at gunpoint.
Yeah. Well, that's we've talked about
2 years ago, a year and a half ago, whenever it was.
He's got an active lawsuit right now against Milwaukee PD. He was illegally parked in a handicap spot at a pharmacy, and they fucking lit him up. And it's like, seriously, when you will get often from people that, hey, these NBA players, when do they deal with racism? They're rich. They don't, they're not victims of this. You got two guys in the league, or one guy who's on the cusp. Thabo Sefolosha in New York had his leg broken by law enforcement, and Sterling Brown is involved right now in an active lawsuit. So that's in the end we're saying.
By the way, they weren't born rich.
Yeah, and yes, and so LeBron's point, it's like, hey, I grew up a certain way. I was around people who were victims of racism. So I don't know.
And by the way, getting money does not mean you're no longer a human being and have rights and opinions and thoughts. It's not like, okay, you're done.
Yeah, you've made it.
Yeah.
Can I go with something real light at the end here? We'll close out. Can we play a little picture game? Does everyone know who Mekhi Becton is, the first round pick of the Jets?
Yeah, from Louisville.
Yeah. Did you see the picture that came out today with receiver Jamison Crowder?
It's very much Shaq and who's the great American gymnast? Dawes. Is it Dominique Dawes or no? Am I off?
It's probably Simone Biles.
Simone Biles. Shaq and Simone Biles. It's very much Shaq and Simone Biles.
Oh, okay. I haven't seen the picture, but I know that. I know the
Two
Shaq
different
picture.
species.
Yeah.
And Soren knows, going back, that I have a real joy of just gigantic people, either super fat, just tall and gigantic, big heads, just the oddities of this world. Just
when we were
freaks. I'm jealous of them because I wish I was just a bully on the block and would walk in and just,
when we were young and lifted and exercised and in shape, I would eat super healthy. Like, the desert makes you get thin. I'd eat super healthy for 6 days, and then I wouldn't eat all day Sunday. And then Sunday night after the football was over, we would go and hit a Vegas buffet every Sunday.
Yep.
And every Sunday, Cofield would have somebody at the buffet that he was fascinated with.
I just loved it.
It's like, oh my God, look at this kid.
Look at the size of this one.
He's immense. He loves size.
Here we go. Jets first round. I mean, that doesn't look real. That's an NFL player on the left.
It's nice at number 77 to show up at Pop Warner.
Yeah, right. I saw something like, anybody mess with my kid, I'm going to kick your ass. The father-son game is today.
He's listed at 6'7", 349, although he's pushed over 400 pounds in the past.
That's a big guy.
Sounds like it's going to work for the Jets. I'm real confident.
Doesn't he look like the guy on the left's 5'9", right? Who's the guy on the left? I read he was 5'9".
Jamison Crowder. He looks 9 foot, 600 pounds.
He looks well over 7 feet.
It's so amazing.
I think he's every bit of 6'9".
All right. I'm going to go. Let me get the next picture because it's actually, I don't think it's the most impressive size differential we've seen in the last 10 years. Next up, we're going to go to.
Is Pig involved in this?
Say it again.
Since it's a sports fan reunion night, is Pig involved in this?
There. You know what? You're onto a theme.
Okay.
This is out of it's the picture's mini. God damn it. Let me make this bigger. Oh yeah, there you go. This is impressive. The other boards are like, Jesus Christ, dude. Or they're like, please get us something out of this dumpster. Here we go.
Wow.
Oh my Lord.
By the way, he'll be the draft pick of the Jets next year over a really good receiver as well.
That is a large animal.
Yeah.
Oh my Lord.
I don't know if I've ever seen one that big before.
That's what she said, right, Dave? Back in the old days? Dave was dropping the hammer, dropping the salami on the table. Let's go.
And he's clearly located a place where he can get lots of good food.
He's bigger than the dumpster, and he's jacked, too. Like, that is a muscular goddamn boar.
I'm surprised he just doesn't push the dumpster over.
Where is that Where is that? Because I'm not going there.
I don't know. I can't read the Asian writing. But I do have one that's more impressive. You ready?
Oh, it is in Asia. Okay, well, good. I wouldn't go in there anyway.
This is my favorite size differential of all time. I think it's a true picture. We're all big fans on Cofield and Company of Boban, the giant 7-footer in the NBA. Here he is with the hedgehog, Stan Van Gundy.
That's awesome.
Oh, my Lord.
And Stan's getting to the age where he's going to start to shrink, which, I know about that. Man, look at that.
So,
and by the way,
Dave,
I'm going to look.
Is that what you're telling us?
Well, it happens to everybody when they get older.
Okay.
It just,
some people it only happens when they get in the pool, but for you, I guess.
No, I'm talking about overall.
Oh, my bad. My bad.
Looks like a pocket human. The hedgehog is real. That's the most impressive part. I won't go there. I'm not going to make dick jokes. But if I were going to make a dick joke, because
what would you say if you were? You're not gonna, but if you were.
Well, obviously, Hedgehog 2, Stan Van Gundy is named after Ron Jeremy, who was hung like that boar, and maybe the size differential goes right back in Boban's face. Maybe he's a little smaller than the hedgehog. You never know.
Well, at least
Renee jumped. It's good, Dave.
I was going to say at least Ron Jeremy 2 is in as much trouble as Ron Jeremy 1.
No, Ron Jeremy 1 turned out to be. I think he was always a creep, but when you find out the guy had all the sex he wanted for years, and he was raping and pillaging through community in porn and outside of porn, so he turned out to be a real sicko. Renee says, "What the blank?" Commentary from Brady on the drug testing: is the hog more afraid of the USDA or USADA, the testing agency for many sports? For many sports. Kirk, were you not impressed with Becton or the boar that he's got to lift the legs a little more? By the way, it's always the excuse. You always hear that, the criticism from guys when they see some giant muscular guy, like, "Oh, it's all upper body, man. Might want to work on the legs, geek."
It's the same. It's the same as when there's a really good looking girl and there's guys saying she's not that hot. Right.
Yeah.
Right. I'm sure she's going to be jumping over great-looking guys to get next to you, bud.
Cofield, you're not headed to the gym tomorrow wearing a sleeveless cutoff T-shirt that says "Leg Day"? If you've gone to a gym at any point, you haven't seen some guy sporting the "Leg Day." I'm hardcore leg day. All right, go get him. Leg day. I'll tell you what leg day got me, a fucked up back.
Yep. You're right, Brad. Size queen. No doubt. Yeah. Key question. This is actually really good to close on. We went long tonight, so let's wrap on this.
Okay.
Dave, are you doing fantasy football at all?
Me?
Yeah.
I hate fantasy football.
Yeah. Dave, by the way,
Petro, Dave, baseball.
Dave bailed out of. Dave's been in how long? What's your oldest league, Dave? Back to like 86?
Baseball, it's late 80s sometime, yeah.
I'm in a league.
I should point out, by the way, my 2 auction leagues both have folded up. Mostly old white guys, and they're unhappy. So the league's done.
Well, you
they're
were
unhappy. What are they unhappy about?
Listen to this. Listen to this.
Wow.
Tell them
winning all the time. Or?
No, tell them.
No, they're pissed off because some Giants players took a knee.
Yep.
That's it. I'm done with baseball.
That's their protest.
Unbelievable. And guess, by the way, you can take this for what it's worth. Guess who they're all voting for?
I know where that's going.
I mean, I'm sorry, but that's just the battle lines remain clear.
I mean,
well, it's just the way it is.
No, I'm not arguing with you. It's just, you've marveled your whole life at a sport where the best of the best play, and they still play, and they're the best of the best, and their opinions are different than you, and so you're running away. That's
and the beauty of it is
that cowardice? Can I call that cowardly?
No, it's just stupid. Okay, it's stupid. You're denying yourself something you enjoy because and you're going to have no impact whatsoever. And in fact, the ratings have gone up. NASCAR and baseball, where you heard these two massive protests from old white guys. It's just, let's call it straight, from old white guys. I'm never going to watch. And you fucked over your fan base, and the ratings for both sports have gone up.
Which is again why I'll come back to. I know we're going to end with a light note, but why the football owners, I think the next big thing is why the NBA needs to keep going is because they got to put the pressure on the NFL, and let's see what they do, because
100%. Let the old white people complain. They don't matter anyway. The sponsors don't give a shit about them. People my age are not the desired demographic.
That's right.
Okay. They don't care about us at all because they're looking to make money, and they make money with 18 to 34 and not 67 to infinity.
There's a little bit. There's some 25, 54. If you're 54 under, you're kind of in there. 1849, you're kind of in there. 1834, you're the prime mark.
Me, I don't matter at all.
No, you don't matter at all. Steve, barely. Me, just a hint more than barely, because I still slide in under the 18 to 49. But yeah, at the end of the day, bullshit.
And so I'll close on this note. We've got two guys running for president that are older than I am. How screwed up is that? Two old goats. Two old get off my lawn goats. Jesus. We got 300 million people in this country, and that's what we got. Jeez.
What was the fantasy question, Steve? You had the question. I didn't get to answer it.
I was just asking about fantasy football and if everyone was playing fantasy football, because we have a draft this weekend. So I was just curious. I kind of figured Dave wasn't. I knew he wasn't doing fantasy baseball. So if he was doing fantasy football, I assumed he wasn't doing that.
Well, I had the question: am I going to Vegas?
Oh, that was it.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yeah. And no, I'm not. We're all doing. We're gonna do the Zoom for the shit talk, and then we're gonna do the league online. We do auctions because we have a pair because we're tough. I don't know. I want to be like
auction's way better than
auction's way better. So we do our auction. We'll do our auction online, and I've got the Zoom account, so I'll get us all on there for the shit talk. This is how we did our baseball, and I was supposed to take Thursday. I was supposed to be in Vegas Thursday through Monday, and instead I'm going to take off Friday to Tuesday because we're doing some electrical work at the house, and so I broadcast from my house most days. And so, the shit's going to be done. So I'm like, I'll just get all this done. We'll make that happen. But no, the fantasy league will continue. We will not stop.
Good for you guys.
And I will tell you this, Dave, here's the mistake you made is I don't give a flying monkey's ass who wants to drop out of any of my fantasy leagues. I'll replace their shit.
Yeah.
Like, no problem.
Well, I'll start a new league next year.
We got a core on our baseball league of like how many of us, Steve, that have done it? JB and I go back to 1990 at Syracuse University. But we go back to like 96, right? 96, 97, the sports fan days.
Yeah.
And so we're 20 plus years in to our baseball league. And there's probably about 7 or 8 of us that have been the whole time. And we turn over one about every 3 or 4 years, but there's 7, 8 of us out of the 11 that are there year in, year out. Fantasy football is about 7 of us, 8 of us. We turn over 1 or 2 every year. Guys like Renee go and book DJ, gigs, and all of a sudden he's out. That kind of shit happens, but stupid.
I will say honestly, I feel bad for you guys because I know this weekend normally this weekend would have been. It's kind of your fun pass.
Oh yeah,
you get out of the bubble.
When I got married, we had a discussion. All right, what's important to you? Okay, no debt. We're not going to be living in debt, so we got to be responsible. Okay, good on that. My wife's like, we're raising our kids Catholic. She's got a real issue, and I'm like, at the end of August, I'm going to fucking Vegas and for fantasy football. Like my wife's giving us real life things, raising our kids this way, doing this. And I'm like, fantasy baseball is in Kansas City. Jackasses like Cofield and Chuck Powell, they're going to come stay at my house and we're going to do fantasy baseball for like 4 days. I'm not going to pay attention to the family because we're going to run out, get drunk, and then draft baseball teams, and then get drunk, and then draft another baseball team. and you're going to sign off on this. And then at the end of the summer, I'm going to go to Vegas. I'm going to do fantasy football, and it's my job. I need it to know what's going on with players, and you got to sign off on that. And my wife's like doing real moral things, and
this is all I want.
This is all I want.
Just my fantasy leagues.
Yeah, so not going to Vegas, it sucks, man. I just had to cancel my free room in Vegas. I had a free room. I'd qualified for the free room.
Oh, yeah. A lot of the hotels are doing that now. And they're even
but it was before the shit was going on. I booked back in like January or February. And I was all fired up because I got my ass handed to me so bad by the casino last time. They're like, "You're coming out? Shit, yeah, here's a room for free. You dumb bastard. We'll put you up."
Mr. Tiger Gator, this is just for you. We'll close on this, okay? You good with me now? We all good? All right, Dave. All right, Soren.